morning, everyone. It's great to see faces in a room, also faces out in Zoom land. We're still making the transition, and so we're grateful for anyone who can join us either virtually or in person. Welcome to the Chamber. I'm Brenda Nagel, and I am the Steering Committee Chair of Leadership Bismarck-Mandan. And I have the pleasure of working with each of the Leadership Bismarck-Mandan classes at the start of orientation, all the way through graduation, and graduation will be next week, and we're super excited about that. We do have a smaller class this year, obviously because of the pandemic, but this class persevered and went on through, and really had a great experience, I think, even in the face of sort of adversity. We're super flexible and tried all different sorts of angles to get their issue days in, and to the culmination of this project presentation. I will go ahead and kick it off this morning for our first presentation about talking trails. And so normally what happens is they'll do their presentation and they'll open it up for questions and kind of conversation afterwards. I encourage you to ask good questions of the group. They've spent a fair amount of time on these projects and know their subject very well. We're very excited, so we'll turn it over to Talking Trails.
Thank you, Brenda. Good morning, everyone. We are half of the Leadership Bismarck-Mandan class of 2021. We are here today to present our team's field project, the Downtown Bismarck Art and Architecture Interactive Experience. I am Annika Lockard. I work for the North Dakota Attorney General's Office. The rest of our team members are Rich Garman with Great River Energy, Melissa Barth with Aetna, a CVS health company, Tina Stanger with University of Mary, and Weston Dressler with Sanford. The goal of our project is to bring the abundant outdoor art and historical architecture of downtown Bismarck to life through an interactive smartphone application that will allow locals and visitors to take a walking tour of downtown Bismarck using a free app to hear from local artists about their pieces and others about our local historical architecture. Our preliminary project partners are Talking Trail, a smartphone application company based right here in Bismarck, the Dakota West Arts Council, a previous partner with 6 participants of the 2016 leadership program on Art Alley, also known as Alley 5.5. Our team has also presented to and hopes to partner with the Bismarck Historical Preservation Commission to bring the historical part of this project to life.
I'd like to tell you a little bit about our partners, starting with Talking Trail. It's a mobile platform that will make your stroll downtown a little bit more interactive and personal. Connecting art or history with this innovation allows the experience to be immersive. Rather than reading a line on a sign, you can experience the whole story with the Talking Trail mobile app. And you can use a QR code to dial in, or the app itself for your information. It really captivates the viewers with an audio or video recording that shares the entire story. Next slide. Our first partner in this adventure was Dakota West Arts Council and Molly McLean. Dakota West Arts Council is a nonprofit that's been working with local government, artists, and organizations for 35 years in our community to support and promote culture opportunities for all. We are happy to be able to work with them and to put into motion the next step in immersing people in the Art Alley 5.5 experience. Here's how it works. Let's say you've come to Art Alley and you're asking yourself, why did Nicole Gagner paint pickle jars? You'd pull out your phone, scan the code, or dial in, open the app, and hear Nicole tell in her own words something like this excerpt, which I took the liberty of shortening for this example. I was born and raised in North Dakota. Time after time, the subject that keeps drawing me back is the bright colors in the still life compositions of a garden's bounty and the beautiful, neat little arrangements they become when canned and preserved. There is such a history of optimism to preserving food. In this time where we can get anything we need in the frozen section of the grocery store, Why do we keep alive the traditions of jarring and canning? So you can imagine that it'd be even better with a little background ambiance and Nicole's own voice telling the whole story. Next slide. We have also expanded our scope just a little, and we'll tell you more as we go along. We include the Historic Preservation Commission. What this advisory board does is advise the community on matters related to nominations to the National Register of Historic Places. They work to promote and educate about the city's history, heritage, historic properties, and past citizens, and to serve the community as a resource for those who need historic expertise. I'll turn it over to Weston now. He can tell you more.
Sure. All right. So working closely with our partners at Dakota West Arts Council and the Historic Preservation Commission, we've been able to identify 30 potential locations now to implement within the Talking Trail system. 20 of those sites, those talking points, would be included in the art alley. Those are our confirmed locations as of today. Those pieces of artwork, there's 20 individual different pieces done by a variety of artists, many of them local artists to the area. And as Tina shared, they all would have their own story to each piece of art. The other 10 locations that we're looking at are the architectural, the buildings and the structures around the downtown area. All of these locations fall within a 5 to 7 block radius within downtown. So as you can see on the slide, we have some of those sites, the Rail Depot, the Bill Mayhews Auditorium, the former Governor's Mansion. And I should mention all of these sites we've done research on. We've compiled information to help share the rich history that comes with all these buildings, many of them over 100 years old. So the Governor's Mansion would have some information, just kind of giving its background story. So it was actually built as a private residence in 1884, sold to the state for $5,000 in 1893, and then was the home of 20 North Dakota governors up until 1960. There's actually some folklore stories of the house being haunted, as Governor Briggs actually passed away in the building in 1898, and his butler refused to sleep in the house for a while after that. So these are some of the pieces of information that we would be sharing with all these sites. The Patterson Hotel, Capitol Theater building, the Weather Beacon. The Weather Beacon is kind of an interesting one. It's kind of become a endangered species across our country. There's not many weather beacons left. Ours is one of the very few that is still up and running and operating. So not only serving as a landmark and a piece of local history for us, but it still continues to give us the weather forecast. And if you're like me and from Bismarck, grew up in Bismarck, I remember many drives past the Weather Beacon and going through the little rhymes with my parents. So get a little nostalgia. I'm going to go through those rhymes with you today. Weather Beacon, white as snow, down the temperature will go. Weather Beacon, red as fire, temperature is going higher. Weather Beacon in emerald green, forecast says no change foreseen. And lastly, we might get this today, Brenda, it does forecast 12 hours out. When colors bling in agitation, there's going to be precipitation. So fun information. I think as we put the talking trails together and the information behind each piece, obviously you can see the rest. St. Alexis, World War Memorial Building, the City Library, and the Cathedral of the Holy Spirit to round out our architectural pieces that would be implemented within our first 30 sites as we move forward. Next slide, please, Annika. Thank you. So as we pursued this project, we wanted to reach out to our local business owners in the downtown area, find out what their appetite was, and if this was something they were interested in, and something that would potentially be utilized within our community. So we worked closely with Bismarck Downtowners Association. Kate Herzog helped us out to deploy a survey to all of our downtown business owners. And it was a short survey, just 4 questions involved, but we wanted to roll through that with you today, just to give you an idea of what the responses look like. So our first question was, do you have a personal interest in learning more about local art and architecture with talking points that you could listen to? So talking trails, exactly what we're going for. As you can see, our responses were at about 60% yes of people interested in something like this. So we're pleased with the first result. Our next question was, how likely are you or your staff to direct customers to local interest sites such as the Art Alley? Again, we had pretty overwhelming results. We had rounding out at least somewhat likely to very likely in about the 70% range. So our local business owners, our downtown business owners are obviously very good advocates for us in an area that we would pursue as people to help market the Talking Trails as we get it going. We got a little more, I guess, personal outside of the business owners. How we asked them, how many times per week are you actually downtown outside of your working hours? And what we found is that around 40%, we're actually going downtown on an average 3 to 5 times per week, just for personal reasons. So for shopping, going out to eat, maybe some drinks. And then lastly, how likely are you to tell your friends and family about downtown sites? Of course, like I said, our local downtown business owners and our people of Bismarck are probably our best advocates in what we have going on. And as you can see from those results, very likely to likely, we're again about 75%. So our people are sharing what's going on, and we would utilize those people and our word of mouth strategies to market the Talking Trails as much as possible in the early stages. So we did the survey. We felt reassured that our plans were going in the right direction. There's interest, and we felt like people would want to utilize something like this. So I'm sure by now you guys are wondering, what are the costs associated with implementing Talking Trails? And that's our next step here. Like I mentioned, we have the 20 confirmed sites within the Art Alley. Those would be working with Talking Trails. We were able to get a cost estimate. Those would cost around $10,000 to implement and get that started. Adding in our 10 architectural sites to get us to 30 talking points takes us to about $16,500 to get everything up and running. There is a $1,200 annual maintenance fee that comes with the project. So now we have a better understanding of the costs. I'll turn it over to Rich to go over some of our funding efforts and plans in that area.
Thank you, Weston. Thanks a lot. So talk about funding efforts. How do we pay for it all, right? They give that to the engineer to figure out where to find the money. So there is actually, we live in a very, very generous community. So we didn't have to look very far. One of the first things that we evaluated was the Capital City Christmas Celebration, Capital City Christmas Fund. That has a strong potential for some funding opportunities there. And we're actively putting an application together for that right now. Looks like that would be a reasonably positive result from them. So we would get hopefully we will get partial funding from that entity. Then other entities that we would go out there to balance out the amount of funding we would need. We local community entities. I listed a few there. Don't tell my boss, I listed Great River Energy. Base Electric, MDU, Resources, Capital Electric. You notice they're power company heavy, but that's my life. That's where I work. So there are many other entities out there, but most of them have local foundations for local funding for projects like this. And we started the process of requesting funding through those sites. And so we're fairly confident that we will have that funding available. Next slide. So what's next? One of the beauties of this project is that it can come in phases. Phase 1 obviously would be Art Alley, Alley 5.5. Phase 2, which would be almost simultaneous with us, is if we partner with the architectural points that are out there as well. The 10 talking points for the architectural project are approximately $7,500. That funding is already in place from the Historic Preservation. There we go. It's right there. Historic Preservation Commission. That funding is in place. So if we partner with them, that part of the project actually comes in pre-funded. Other phases that could be added to this project as well is a previous project was the art tunnel and other pieces of art around town. Those could all be added onto this project as phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So we will be approaching the local companies for additional funding. We're working with the Historic Preservation Society Commission for funding as well. Beyond that, that's our funding funding plan, we're not too worried about achieving success there. We think we'll have pretty good success there. So with that, we'll pass it on to Melissa.
Delightful. Okay, let's talk about maintenance and the expansion phase. So now it's all put together. We have this app 6 months down the road. You're walking in downtown Bismarck. You scan a QR code. You're getting information on art. You're walking around thinking, hey, I wonder about that building. You scan a QR code, you get that information. But there's a building over here that we're not really sure about. The nice thing about this project and partnering with Talking Trail is there is room for expansion. So at any point in time, additional talking points can be added, whether they're art, architecture, or even human interest. It does have that possibility. So the annual maintenance cost, regardless of, based on our information, the amount of points is $1,200. That is for them to keep the information on their server and update any information that is needed. So when you're walking downtown and you're thinking, I wonder if we could expand, there are certain locations that, or partnerships that we can, of course, in the future, look to add additional talking points. And that would be the Bismarck Downtowners, Bismarck Parks and Recreation, and North Plains National Heritage Area. So through this process and getting the community all excited and hyped up about our Talking Trail, our very own Weston Dressler had the opportunity to speak with KFYR and provide a little bit of information about the project that we are currently working on. So I will kick it over to that 1.5-minute TV spot.
From an artist's mind to your fingertips, the Leadership Bismarck-Mandan Committee is bringing public artwork to life. The group plans to add to a Talking Trails app so that people can learn about art in Bismarck direct.
You gotta love technology.
Directly from the people who create. Created it. Erica Craven has more.
Bismarck Art and Architecture could soon talk to you from your phone.
In its conception, the Northern Pacific Railway was written.
That is information about the Northern Pacific Railway on the Talking Trails app, but soon users may hear new voices. The voices of local artists that painted this alleyway. Art Alley 5.5 has 22 pieces of art that are enmeshed in the Bismarck community.
It brings a lot of people to the downtown area, which definitely helps out our local businesses.
Each piece of art, like these jars, represents something different to those that pass by.
Because growing up in North Dakota, it really represents like my grandmother and just North Dakota spirit.
This year, the artists have a chance to explain the details.
Really, it could just provide some of our tourism, even our local residents that may have never been down here or have walked through here before and would just like to learn more.
Project leader Weston Dressler says that while the idea of giving a voice to art or historical pieces through an app is not new, highlighting the pieces at Alley 5.5 will enhance the educational value of the 2016 paintings. The Leadership Bismarck-Mandan Committee also hopes to include art from the Heritage Art Tunnel project. The information from Alleyway 5.5 is to be included on the Talking Trails app later this summer. In Bismarck, I'm Erica Craven reporting for your news leader.
So one question that comes up after that spot is, hey, we didn't hear anything about the Heritage Art Tunnel. And you'd be right, because we actually are focused on a 5 to 7 block radius on our first initial phase rollout of 1 and 2. They, of course, can include the Heritage Art Tunnel at a later time. So with that being said, we have concluded our presentation for today. Any questions from the audience? And also online, if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. Yes, ma'am.
I actually have 2 questions. So sustainability of this project is critical. Once you guys are done and the team disbands, who will take over the leadership of this project?
So that would actually be turned over to the Historic Preservation Commission for their talking points. And then
Dakota West Arts Council will take over for their art talking points. They will actually have a joint partnership to sustain the app and the maintenance.
So they'll continue to do the fundraising to keep it going then.
Yes,
And then my other question is, North Dakota weather can be a little harsh. You talk about QR codes. How do you plan to affix those next to like a piece of art or onto a building so that they sustain themselves over time?
that is a valid question to which we do not have an answer as of yet. As we work through the project, that was one thing our team had also talked about. Is it better to incorporate something into the art if possible, or where would we put the sign? So that is still to come. Yes, sir.
So on the Talking Trail, you said that's a North Dakota company, and we're involved with this Cooley here and trails and with Bismarck Park. So just who is that, and you know, what else do they do? And they're going to be around for a long time. The folks that are actually the app and do Talking Trails, who is that folks, and something we should brag about locally, I suppose.
Yes, it is Sean Brennan.
Sean?
And he actually, there's multiple Talking Trail locations here in North Dakota. There also are some in, I believe, Montana, Colorado, and Otter Tail County. Yeah,
Jamestown has, I think, a 50-point or a 40-point talking trail through Jamestown for some of its historic points. So it's fairly prolific through the area. So I think Enchanted Highway
I believe so.
has it on it as well. So some fairly big local attractions have utilized this talking trail. So.
And if I might add, the Fargo Air Museum. And one nice feature of the app is that if you have the app, it will notify you of sites as you're driving.
Instead of having your dad pull over to every historical site.
Use Google.
It's like a dad on your phone.
Any additional questions? Sir?
You had mentioned that it's either an audio or a video feed. I guess do you have an idea of how you would project this, the art component of this in terms of what the artist will be just audio clip, or will they be visually talking or have exhibits, or how do you foresee that taking place?
So the initial intention is to have a photo of the art on the app and then the audio from the artist, kind of explaining their process, what they decided to paint, why that topic or why that medium even, what semblance or importance it has to them. Yeah, I have a question.
So you said the artists themselves will be the ones verbalizing the talking trail information. Is that the same for some of these other sites like St. Alexis or World War II, or will it be like a local person that's providing the rights for that as well?
Talking Trails actually provides professional voiceover capabilities.
Yeah.
If the artist is available to provide their own story, they will. But who's going to provide the story for the historic governor's mansion? It would be a professional, a voice actor that they would employ. So.
Or if anyone's looking for voice work, please be sure to share it. We'll welcome any additions.
It was our committee's decision to pursue using the actual artist's voice.
Right, that's pretty cool. Are the architectural historic sites that you listed here the same as what the Historic Preservation Commission is interested in, or is there still some coordination there that has to be finalized?
Yes, we actually met with them yesterday and ran through the 10 points with them. And they had some input, but after some discussion, they were fairly comfortable with the points that we had listed. Not to say they may not morph a little bit and change a little bit as time goes on, but those 10 points that we listed on there, they were comfortable with those 10 points as well.
One more question. As you move forward, I mean, I think this is very exciting. I think this is a great project. As you move forward, though, who's going to be responsible for determining who gets or what gets added to the talking trails? Because I'm sure there's people from all over, or businesses all over, that would love to have their building featured or whatever. So who's going to be the judge on that, saying yes or no?
So from a historic or architecture side, if you will, that actually goes through the Historic Preservation Commission based on their subcommittee to talk about the interpretive signage project. So if they do see merit, I believe 7 of the 10 points we had listed are currently on the National Registry of Historic Places. 3 locations are not. So that would be a discussion with them potentially through their subcommittee. And then like today, later, we'll be presenting to the commission for our final 10 points. So I believe that would go through that process.
And how about in terms of art?
That would be Dakota West would kind of have that ownership on the art side of it.
And if it were something outside of the scope of the Dakota West scope or the historic scope, Talking Trails can do any other project that they want. I mean, so it's available. The advantage of putting them together with this is you save a little bit of money on the administration of the points. But if there was another project, say in North Bismarck, that could be an independent Talking Trails project.
So they could add on to what is existing.
Right, there
Just pay the
are dozens of, I guess you would call them projects on Talking Trails. Ours would be one of a few dozen projects that are on there, so.
Any questions online?
No questions. A comment from Bob Barth. He said, very informative presentation. Thank you.
Katie?
I'm just wondering, when are you planning on having this implemented? Are you hoping to have it done by the summer, or are we looking a year in advance?
So our original project implementation plan is by Labor Day. Couple hiccups have kind of come up, as with most projects. So that is our current timeline and hope to have it rolled out.
I have one last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you guys thought about how you're going to spread the word or share the information with the community as far as when the project gets launched and for everyone to be a part of Talking Trails?
Okay. What do you mean? So yes, we, of course, will have a conversation. We actually just talked about that right before. To talk to Talking Trail to see if they have any promotional materials that can be shared with the local businesses. And subsequently, as people leave restaurants or businesses, grab a flyer, kind of wander and meander around downtown to find those QR codes. And I believe with one QR code, it will take you to the site, which of course will also kind of be a pathway into all of the talking points.
I think other obvious pathways would be on Dakota West's social media, the chamber's social media, and then all of the alumni's social media to share the points as well, so.
Mm-hmm. You can imagine a press release or something.
Right.
A couple more comments from online. So one of our viewers said he or she would love to see something like this in Columbus, Ohio, where they're viewing from. And then comment from Will Hutchings. The Historic Preservation Commission is looking forward to working with this group. This project is well-timed in lines of Commission's desire to promote history and support historic tourism. Nice presentation, team.
Yes, sir.
Was there any, I guess, discussions on if you had 20, points to use, whether or not use all of them on Art Alley or use, 15 or 10 there and you spread the other 10 to other art installations in the community? Can you maybe speak to how you got to 20 at Art Alley itself?
I think we wanted to give everybody that spent time in Art Alley their due. I mean, every artist spent a lot of time and effort in Art Alley. So we didn't want to really rank the artists in Art Alley. We wanted to give them all their due. So that's where the 20 points came from. And I think every piece of art in that alley is as valid as the next. So that's how we came up with 20. And I think if we need more points, it's not that expensive, honestly, to move our points to 30 points or 40 points or whatever if they needed to grow. I think we'd rather do it that way than to shortchange Art Alley. So.
A question for you. We know that through the process of leadership Bismarck-Mandan, you hear about a lot of things during your issue days. And at some point in time, you have to make a decision. What project am I going to be a part of? What was your driving force behind picking this particular project?
So that's a valid question.
Deep question, right?
It's very deep. It was actually brought up by one of our cohorts and that there was a need. So through that, we had originally started with another project. Unfortunately, that did not pan out. But we did notice there is a need. People go downtown. I'm going to speak personally. I go downtown and I can honestly say up until this project, never walked through alley 5.5. I did not even know it was there. So I think there's a lot of, we feel that there is a lot of need for something like this to bring the community together. our other project just didn't pan out. Let's put it, I mean, straight away. Yep.
Well, and honestly, to see the passion and stuff from Dakota West on how they bring all the art to the city, it was a perfect pairing. I think it worked out great that we had the opportunity to have a project available and they had a need, and it just landed perfect timing. So like Will said as well, the timing just worked out well, so.
What grouped us together around a project together was the fact that we wanted to be outside on trails. And so even if the other didn't turn out, this was a perfect match for our type of, our way of life, our recreational needs.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Lots of questions. How long of a narration do you anticipate for each art piece? Is there the guidelines of it's a 30-second clip, or someone's going to really go in depth with a 5-minute thing, or is that going to be up to each artist to kind of go into, or have you put some parameters on that concept?
There are. We're keeping it at 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Similar to conversations, if you're listening to something, 90 seconds when you're speaking does not seem long at all. But to someone who's listening to it, you have a tendency on a longer explanation to kind of lose a little bit of interest. So keeping it at 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Any additional questions? All right. Well, we want to thank you all so much for joining this morning, and also to Dakota West Arts Council and the Historic Preservation Commission for partnering with us on this project. I thank you all. Have a great day.